Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to SkillCapped Agent Tier List. This week, after patch 4.10, we're not seeing too many crazy agent changes, but as the meta has been developing around Fade, things are starting to shake up a little bit. So stick with us as we need to keep you updated on everything you need to know to play in this current meta. Starting out this video with something new. What team comps are people currently running right now? People always ask us, what does a good team comp look like, and how should they assess what agent they should fill out a team comp with? Currently in the meta, the easiest way to fill out a team comp that I suggest to people is sticking to the standard double initiator, 1 control, 1 duelist, and 1 sentinel. You'll fill out this comp with a Sova normally, and then your choice of Kayo, Fade, or Skye in the current meta. Sova isn't quite the must pick that he once was though, so you can also substitute the Sova for a Fade, and then run either a Skye or Kayo as your second initiator. As we all know, agents are becoming pretty map dependent. You'll normally want to run a Breach on Fracture, or on Split, you'll use anything other than Sova. Speaking of Split, this is one of the maps where double Sentinel is seeming pretty common as well. It's not uncommon for teams to lock Sage with a second Sentinel on Split, so don't feel like you need to stick to this double initiator meta. For some players, if they've been playing the game since the early days, this may sound kind of weird to them, but let me explain. A lot of people seem to think that the meta is double duelist, because in the past, that's what the meta used to be. You'd have a Jett be one of your duelists, and you'd swap the second for Raze, Phoenix, or Reyna. But over time, as the meta developed in Valorant and new agents were released, duelists just kinda got weak. Don't get me wrong, having one duelist on your team is awesome, and you can get a lot of value on these agents, but when you compare a Phoenix to a Kayo, it's not even really a close contest. Not even just Phoenix, let's compare Reyna to Fade. An agent like Fade provides so much more to a team than a Reyna does. Duelists need that explosiveness to really set themselves apart, and right now in the current meta, we're just seeing that worth having on your team more. But hey, that doesn't necessarily mean any of these agents are bad. This is just about standard team comps. Let's get into the actual tier list now. Real quick before we do though, remember, if you're looking to learn any of these agents, the best place to do that by far is at SkillCapped.com. We have tons of courses submitted by actual Radiant 1 tricks with thousands of hours on each agent. More about that at the end of the video. Starting out with our best agents in the game right now, as you are all familiar with, Jett is still really crazy, nothing new here. Riot tried to nerf her a few months ago and accidentally buffed her. What are you gonna do? That being said, we are seeing people actually in all ranks playing Jett less, with her pick rate dropping around 6% in all ranks. That's a pretty drastic drop for the changes. For context, if Sage's pick rate dropped 6%, that would mean that she's literally never played. With the pick rate dropping on Jett though, that means other agents must be getting picked more. So what's going on there? What this generally means for duelist players is that they're playing Raze or Reyna. One of those agents is going to be in our S tier today, and that's the one that actually provides utility for her team, Raze. Currently, there are 4 agents in the game that are really excellent at taking space quickly, and those agents are Jett, Raze, Yoru, and Neon. We'll talk a bit about the other 2 later, but basically, Raze and Jett are the 2 best at taking space right now, and that's why they find themselves in the S tier. It's really simple actually, they do their job better than anyone else. Someone who we used to say that about was actually Sova. This time, however, we're bringing Sova down from the S tier for maybe the first time in Valorant's existence. There is finally an agent that can fill Sova's spot on a team, and that agent is Fade. As I mentioned earlier, we may be in a double initiator meta, but the interesting thing about it, you can pretty much run any 2 initiators and they'll work well together. Fade, Sova, Skye, Kayo, or Breach, they all do great things for a team and can really complement the other initiator as well. That doesn't mean Sova's bad or not a great pick. Sova is still an incredible pick, but with the nerfs he's received and Fade being added to the game, Riot really figured out how to spice things up. This is a refreshing adjustment to the tier list, and we are happy that there's finally room for the other agents to shine. Going off this, it only makes sense that the next agent on our list is Fade. Fade and Sova are pretty solid equals right now currently in the game. It really depends on the map. On maps like Haven, Ascent, and Icebox, you may want to run the Sova. On Fracture, Bind, or Split, maybe you want to run Fade. Maybe you run both of them. The world is your oyster. Just whatever you do, you need to make sure you have a chamber on your team. If you don't, the world just may crumble beneath you. Nah, just kidding. But that seems to be how players act with chamber right now. The nerfs definitely hit chamber, which is why we don't see him in the S tier anymore. He's still easily one of the best sentinels, with potentially the strongest ultimate in the game, but at least there's reasons to pick other agents over him now. Killjoy is seeing more play on Ascent, Sage is seeing a few more picks in matchmaking games, and once again, I'm going to use the word again, it's refreshing. This act really found a way to make different team comps actually worth playing, so although Chamber is coming down from the S tier, we feel this is really good for the health of the game. Let's move on to the agent I've name dropped a few times so far though. What's going on with Sage? Sage is an interesting agent who always flies under the radar when it comes to power level. That being said, recently we've had our eye on her and have noticed she consistently has one of the highest win rates in the game, posting a 57 87.6% win rate in Radiant level lobbies. That's kind of crazy when you think about it, because Sage isn't really that complex of an agent. In fact, she's probably one of the most basic agents in the game on the surface. However, even though she's basic, she just provides so much value it's really hard to hate on her. Because of her res, she's easily one of the most clutch agents in the game, and her wall provides so much inherent value, it's really hard to go wrong with picking Sage. She's been all over this tier list before, but at least right now, Sage is easily one of the strongest agents in the game, especially after the chamber nerfs. Moving on, let's talk about Kayo. He's been bouncing all over the place, but one thing is for sure, Kayo is the future of Valorant. It really depends on the state of the current meta, but in an ability-based tactical shooter, having the ability to cancel out all abilities is obviously very powerful. With agents like Chamber, Jett, and Reyna, Kayo can prevent them from negating a trade with their abilities, and with agents like Killjoy, Cypher, and Viper, he can basically ruin their whole setup. Regardless of what agent you're playing, abilities are important, and it's going to be very hard to make an impact when you're constantly getting run over by the enemy Kayo. Kayo is a borderline S-tier agent and will only continue to get stronger as the game keeps developing. That being said, as a solo initiator, he doesn't always fill the role perfectly, so for that, we place him just slightly below the other initiators. Let's move on to a few controllers though. The controller meta has calmed down quite a bit, and it's becoming pretty obvious what agents we're all picking. If you're playing on Breeze, Fracture, or Icebox, we're picking Viper. If we're playing on any other map, we're picking Omen. Omen's just so versatile, and he's almost always been this way. Before, when Astra was meta, he really had no place in the meta because she was more powerful and more versatile than him. But since then, he's reclaimed his place, and he's seen a ton more play. Brimstone is still a great pick. He's just slightly more difficult to carry with since he doesn't have the same aggressive tools Omen does. Right below Omen though, we have Viper. Pretty much as we said, at the same power level. Viper may be slightly stronger to be entirely honest, but not as versatile. She's only really playable on a select few maps. Although very strong on those maps, she does seem outclassed by other controllers on the other maps. Still a must pick on maps like Breeze and Icebox though, Viper isn't losing her place in the meta anytime soon. Finally, jumping down to the B tier though, we have Skye. Skye is a strong initiator, but when you already have 3 initiators who are strong in a double initiator meta, it's hard to give her a perfect spot. Is she better than Kayo? Probably not. How about Fade or Sova? It's a pretty close call. Skye is strong, and nobody is going to complain having a Skye on their team, but just because no one's complaining doesn't mean she's the best pick. You gotta remember, if you're picking one agent, you're missing out on another agent, and that's what the B tier is for. Agents who are good, but not the best. For the same reason, Brimstone falls in this same tier. He's an excellent agent, and we've all been devastated by that brutal Brimstone post-plant combo with his ultimate and Molly, but aside from that, he's pretty middle of the pack still. You'll notice this common trend with pretty much every agent in the B tier. Maybe strong on 1 or 2 maps, but definitely not a must pick on any. For our other Sentinels, it's the same story. Killjoy and Cypher are both excellent Sentinels and great flank guards, but neither of them are must picks on really any map. Killjoy is seeing a lot more play on Ascent recently after the chamber nerfs, but especially with Kayo in the game, it can be kind of risky to pick these agents. When all of your utility can be shut down by one knife, it's a bit of a buzzkill to be an agent that is super reliant on their setups. Sticking with the same theme, when we take a look at our last initiator, Breach, it's the exact same story. He's really good on Fracture, but aside from that, he's pretty niche. Do you pick Breach over the Kayo, Fade, or Sova? Probably not. Dare I say it, a really nice change for this agent might be to make his flash faster. It sounds like a terrifying change, but when you compare Breach to Kayo or Skye, one of their big strengths is they can flash so quickly out of smokes to catch enemies off guard. Their flashes are just quite frankly the best in the game. They're quick and practically undodgeable in many situations. When Breach provides the least amount of info of any initiator and has the worst flashes, it's kind of a rough spot to be in. That being said, his ultimate and stun can both really be awesome for taking space, so he does get a bit of a pass. Moving on though, let's talk about an agent who has had a rocky few months, Astra. Astra at one time was the queen of the controller role, but nowadays she's seeing a lot less play. That being said, in Radiant level lobbies, you might be surprised to hear that she's still kicking. Astra currently has one of the highest win rates in Radiant lobbies despite the nerfs, so there's a potential that players are really sleeping on Astra right now. That being said, for the average rank, Astra feels like she lacks utility. When you're stuck in a game where nobody on your team is really playing with you, it kinda sucks to play Astra. For that reason, we place her B tier. She's great, but not really who you want to pick in every game. Finally though, if you made it this far in the video, you probably noticed there haven't been a lot of duelists on this list. So let me explain. Duelists are super important, and you should absolutely have a duelist on your team in every game. Some games you'll have 2, but at this current point in the game, a lot of their kits are interchangeable. Yoru is a really cool duelist right now. He provides a lot of info and can take space aggressively with his teleport, similar to how Raze or Jett can. Neon can do the same while entrying, arguably better than Jett can in some situations. Reyna and Phoenix find themselves as the only agent agents in the C tier right now, strictly for the reason that they can't take space quite as well as all the other duelists, but they're still alright. You can pick any of these agents as your duelist and see some level of success. But do you want a Yoru over a Raze or Jett? Probably not. The duelist role is always going to be to take space, so if you don't do it as good as the other duelists or better, it's going to be hard to have a space in the meta. Their power levels may change over time, but right now, this is where all the agents find themselves. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with all of our tier lists. Also, be sure to let us know what you think in the comments below. Other than that, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. That's all we got for our video today, but remember that if you're really looking to improve at Valorant, I highly recommend checking out SkillCapped.com. We get it, you're just a player trying to get better at the game. That's why you're watching this video in the first place. You're capable of hitting that rank you deserve, but there's no shame in asking for a little help. At SkillCapped.com, we spend hours going through viewer-submitted replays to let you know all the mistakes that you're making. We also couple this with our Smurf commentaries to show players that it is possible to carry themselves out of whatever rank they're stuck in. It might seem hopeless at times, but trust me when I say we can help you out. All you have to do is check out SkillCapped.com. Link in the description below.